Let me preface this by I have not touched this. No, DJ has not sent me one. I do not have enough subscribers for them to warrant me to send it to me. I only have like what? Probably have already, you've seen it. Potato Jet, Make Art Now, Peter McKinnon. They have hundreds of thousands and millions of subscribers, right? Hopefully, maybe someday I'll get there, who knows? Hi, this is Jimmy from 1015 Studios, and today we're going to talk about a new product that has been revealed called the DJI Ronin 4D. Right? You might have seen before. However, if you see what I have in front of me here, you might notice some similarities. A Z-axis stabilization, an independent camera head from the body of the camera here that has 3-axis stabilization, a monitor that's integrated into the system, and a follow focus. Those of you who have an interest in cinematography and the devices that we use to capture these breathtaking images may have noticed that there's a quite distinct design that DJI has gone with this, and some of it's very polarizing. If you look on the internet now, on Facebook and various social media platforms, some people love it, some people hate it, right? And there's very little seemingly in between that people are like, it's okay. Let's try to delve into the process though of why DJI and how DJI came to this very out-of-the-box thinking design. When DJI first came out with products, they were primarily known for drones. When they started coming out with the flagship drone, namely the Inspire 1 series, the Inspire 1 carried a 3-axis gimbal head. This one, right, along with the X3. This is called the X5. And this hung at the bottom of the Inspire. Somebody at DJI obviously had the bright thoughts like, hey, we have such a really nice camera, why not turn it into a ground solution? And they created an adapter to fit into the Osmo handle here. And then another thought was like, well, why don't we create this stabilization thing? Something that is, some people are saying about the Ronin 4D is they're saying it looks like a chicken head. And I've seen the memes and it does look like it. It's a chicken head that balances up, but it works and it works well. So first off, the strength or failing of any camera is the sensor, right? You can have all these other bells and whistles, but if you can't produce a great image or a good image, then it really doesn't matter, you know? So what DJI is using now in the X9, which is capable of 2 resolutions that I'm aware of, is the 6K and the 8K. With those, you can change the mounting systems in the front. So with this one, you were pretty much stuck with micro four thirds. With the GH5, this is the system, the same lens system. If you're using a Sony, like the one I'm filming off right now, it is the E-mount system. Typically, you're locked in. However, DJI is giving you the flexibility to use Leica mount, M mount, I think, and an E-mount, which is the Sony full frame lenses that you're able to do. I'm pretty sure within the next few days to a week, you're going to see a lot of videos demonstrating the image quality. You'll probably compare it to like A7S III, FX9, FX6, Sony's, even Red cameras, and maybe even Aria Alexas, right? So they're going after really high-end cinema cameras, right? Another feature that I really liked about the camera and the imaging system is they have internal NDs in the camera head, which is amazing because if you've seen the pictures of it, of the actual head part of the whole system, it doesn't seem that big, but there's plenty of ND filters in there, and you can just change it by toggling a menu. In the past, what I had to do is put an ND filter on the front of my lenses. It's nice having it internally because it's in the system. You don't have to change it or screw on anything. It's in there, which is nice. The 4D refers to the 4 areas that have stabilization. The first one on the head, you have 3 directions of stabilization. You have tilt, roll, and pan. However, the one that is typically when people are using gimbals, that they control it by doing like ninja walk, right? They heel to toe type of thing, because you get that bounce that usually is in when you walk or run. DJI's solution to that was creating the Z-axis. So when you in the Ronin 4D, it has this same type of head. However, what differs from the Osmo Pro before or other systems that I've seen, most of these other systems that deal with stabilization in the Z-axis direction are using a mechanical process, meaning springs and tightenings to get things where you want them to be. The difference with DJI's approach is they are using a combination of mechanical and electronic, because on the actual Ronin 4D, you do see sensors. So in this case though, these sensors are detecting the ground and compensating appropriately to give it the correct level of dampening. Not too much, not too little, but just right to get your subject matter so that the image doesn't seem like it's bouncing. That's a new method that I haven't seen before, and I'm excited to try that out. Most camera manufacturers are using some sort of image contrast based, face detection based autofocus. DJI has chosen to go a different route, and they're not using an image based autofocusing system, and it would fire basically lasers or LiDAR, right? And to gauge range and then rack focus appropriately through that. I've seen people use it and it seems to get good results. However, one of the areas that I'm still questioning about is that it seemed to me with the LiDAR, you have to be center focus. A lot of times you might not need that, and so can it still do it? Time will tell. This is an entirely new module that I've seen on that. It's bigger, it seems beefier on the Ronin 4D, so I give anything a try. LiDAR doesn't need light, right? As opposed to even Sony's or Canon, it still needs some light to be able to gauge it. You can't do it in dark, whereas LiDAR doesn't need light. So that's something to take note of in low light situations, or I guess no light situations. But for what I've gathered on the videos that I've seen, there are some areas that I would have some further questions on. I don't want to say concerns because it's too early to say. For me, the questions I have is regarding the autofocus. I'd really have to test that one out and see, is it just straight on, or is actually you can, out of a whole square that typically you would see in your frame, can you tap anywhere of that and then cause it to autofocus on there? They didn't demonstrate that, so I don't know that one, right? So that would be interesting to see. The other thing that I have concern about is that it seemed very heavy, right? You had that box and that camera head in the front. So it feels like to me, it would be very front heavy, wanting to kind of something like this, right? As that head is out and that the weight kind of goes to the front, you would want to push forward this way. As opposed to when I set up my gimbal system, I try to keep the center of the gravity of the gimbal down the middle. So it's not front heavy or rear or to the left or to the right. It's all in line, so you can just make your movements freely. It still gets heavy per se, but it's not heavy in one direction as opposed to what I'm seeing with the Ronin 4D. The other issue that I have is because it's an all integrated system, which is amazing, by the way. I love what they did. But I wonder, for example, if you just simply want to run and gun and go handheld, it seems big because the head can't exist without the body, right? Typically, when you have a camera set up with a gimbal, the camera sits on the arm, one of the arm axes, but you can detach it any time, and you could still use your camera to record your subject matter if you want to go onto a more hands-on approach, or maybe you need to go in a tight area and kind of make it move however you want to move. With the Ronin 4D, that is, I mean, you can configure it, change it differently, maybe shoulder that I've seen out here, but you still have to have that whole body and head connected, or else you cannot, it won't work, right? So that's another area where I'm like, yeah, I don't know, right? Lastly, I wonder about battery life. They're using the batteries they have from the Inspire series. namely Inspire 2. Those batteries are big, they're beefy, but it's typically when you are using a system, at least from what I use, you have different power systems powering different aspects of your rig. I have a battery that's powering the gimbal. You have a battery that's powering the camera. You have a battery that's powering your audio receiver. You have a battery that's powering your display, right? Your monitor slash recorder. All those things are there and they're independent. So that can be annoying, but also a blessing in that they're all working independently. So if one thing changes, you know, you can still have battery here and there and you can still record. In this case with the 4D, it's that one battery is powering everything, right? So there's a significant drain on that. I heard in one video, I think it was by Cinema D, again, they probably got an early thing, but they said about an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours of you know, using it to shoot. In conclusion, I'm excited, right? I like seeing companies, not just DJI, even though I do like their company. I have a lot of their products. You should see my walls over here and there. I got tons of stuff, DJI. However, I just appreciate people trying something new, something different, something that hasn't been seen before or often, or trying a different approach. And this is certainly one of those, right? You see it and you're like, what is that? You're not going to mistake it for any other type of camera out there, right? There's tons of cameras right now, especially cinematography cameras, that there's just a box with a lens, right? The 6K version is going to cost you about $8,000. They give you a package, but obviously you're going to need more accessories than just that. And then of course the 8K version, which I don't believe is available, neither is available, but the 8K will come later. It will be almost like $11,000 to $12,000. So obviously if you're using this to make money as tools, then yeah, it's an expense that can be warranted. In any case, thank you. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your time and your support. This is Jimmy from 1015 Studios. Take care. God bless.